this moving. It's Young People Nation.
Welcome to Young People Nation. Listen to us weekly as we commit to bring transparency, healing, and truth to the everyday situations in life that might bring you down. Join us for your weekly dose of inspiration. Thank you for listening to Young People Nation. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And now, here's your host, Eugene and Donna Perry.
Let's go. Christ is the foundation. Know his word gon' lead us. Know I'm already going. Taking steps I believe in. Giving guidance to the youth. Giving guidance to the lost. Giving the world to the project.
These sessions have been amazing. Welcome back to Young People Nation.
Let's do it.
We're with Dr. Austin, Dr. Rosetta Parker Austin, PhD, and she got a lot of alphabets behind her name, okay?
Oh, yeah.
But you know what? She's such a genuine, down-to-earth sister, okay? You can talk with you on a professional and on a personal level, and it just flows. Thank you for being your authentic, real self.
Thank you for being able to handle it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Because don't go over there if you don't want the truth, okay? But I love it because we need that truth. Just like, when we had our roundtable day, my mind's still on, she got me thinking. And so this woman, though, she's a professional counselor. She's a business owner. She's a mother of several daughters and sons. She's an aunt, uncle, cousin, leader in the church, leader in the community. She is a founder of Warrior Watchman Incorporated and Watchman House Incorporated. And so she's doing a lot of things. Her passion is towards those young people.
Yes, ma'am.
All of that, it comes right back to the center. Learned that today, didn't we? Of what God has called her to do in her passion for young people. Thank you for being there for those who don't have a voice.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And those are the people a lot of times end up being in a professional, a president, a doctor, a lawyer, someone, but it starts with people like yourself pouring into them and not being judgmental, but being loving. So thank you, Dr. Austin.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So in this session, we're huge about mental health and we love your saying, what's CPR, Dr. Austin?
Cast it out. If you can't cast it out, pray it out. It's time to refer it out.
All right now, because everything is not a demon.
Exactly.
That's right. So on that note, we're talking about bipolar awareness.
Okay.
And the stigma and misunderstanding of that diagnosis, because it is a diagnosis, no different than having a diagnosis with diabetes, cancer, any other form of a diagnosis. So what is bipolar? You are a professional counselor. You are a doctor. So how do it affect moods and presence? And again, what is bipolar?
Okay, actually, I'm also somebody who lives with bipolar disorder. So it affects about 2.8% of adults across America, but only 80% of the people are diagnosed before age 25. It shows up in your young age.
Really?
It shows up in your early 20s, sometimes teen years, but it often goes undiagnosed as a teen being disruptive or unruly. There's bipolar disorder 1 and there's bipolar disorder 2.
Okay.
And then there's mixed episodes and then there's cyclemic disorder. So there's 4 different kinds, but really 2 types of bipolar disorder. It's a chemical imbalance in the brain. And when it's treated, you're given a prescription. You take your prescription, and it helps kind of like keep the chemical imbalances in check, but you still have to do your work, and you still have to go to therapy, and you still have to track your moods. I tell people all the time, one of the best apps I have ever found used to be called the Up app, but now they have one called eMoods. You could download it from the Apple Store or Google, and you could track your symptoms. And so you know when you get ready to go into a manic phase where you're just all over the place, or you're getting ready to go into a depressive stage where you are either like And depression stage is not as Hollywood describes it, whereas you in the bed crying all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are just really angry. They have irritable depression. So there's two types of depression.
Okay.
And so, but bipolar is just a chemical. It's a medical, just mental health disorder.
Okay. Okay. And so the mood, your mood changes.
Your
pretty much.
mood changes, and it's a chemical thing. It's not something you can control.
Mm-hmm.
You're placed on medication to help you manage how fast it. Because some people with bipolar disorder cycle real fast.
Okay.
They go from high to low, high to low. You ever met somebody, you never know what you're going to get when you talk to them.
Yes,
You're like,
yes.
I don't know if you're going to be mad at the world, you're going to be crying today, or you're going to just be in the bed. And sometimes people who with bipolar disorder, if they're not on their medication, they will show irrational symptoms. And that's why a lot of people think teens are either being difficult because they'll start talking fast, or either they'll start spending money they don't have. And you'll be like, what is going on with my child? Or either your child is in the bed and you like, my child is so depressed, I don't know what, and it's like the child just don't have it in them to get up, or either they just explode or become super aggressive. And you're like, what happened? This child, all the way up to the age of 15, was fine. And it's like a switch flipped. What happened? But it's a genetic disorder that flows down through families.
Okay.
And that's why it's a medical mental disorder.
Okay. Okay.
And but it can be treated and it can be managed.
Okay, so you just kind of spoke on the misconception of this medical disorder. Can you share? You just shared that you generally see it more or it's diagnosed more in the 20s.
It should be.
Okay,
but nearly 80% are not diagnosed. Especially in some ethnic communities, and sometimes it goes completely undiagnosed.
Okay,
and because a lot of people who with bipolar disorder in some ethnic communities, you find out they become alcoholics because they try to numb out the symptoms because they don't know how to balance the rapid cycling. And it's just one of those things where if you are not trained to look for it and you don't know that it runs in family lines, that's why it's so important that families stop keeping these secrets.
Yes.
But you had Uncle Ray who was just so stable. We say, oh, he was schizophrenic, but he wasn't schizophrenic. He might have just had bipolar disorder.
Okay.
And so we keep family secret, that one we keep in the closet, like, don't let
don't
crazy
let
Ray come out.
Yeah.
and it's one of those things, that's why it goes undiagnosed.
And you talked about the levels. You said there's really two.
It's two main ones, but they're different types of bipolar. Cyclic means they cycle. Bipolar 1, they may just have like one stage of it. They might not have irritable and they may not have the manic and the depression. They might just have one or the other. You got bipolar 2 and they might have both. And then you might have bipolar mixed where they just cycle. It just depends on what kind of bipolar it is, but it still can all be managed with medication, therapy, and they got to put the work in though. You cannot just have bipolar and think a prescription is gonna fix everything.
Okay, got you. So it takes therapy and medication for the most part.
Yes, ma'am, because they have to be able to learn how to work with those symptoms.
Okay. Wow. Was you gonna say something? That's so enlightening, isn't it?
Well, it's fascinating because everybody's a lot of people when you say bipolar, you think about person changing into another person, like they took some kind of potion, and it's not like that.
It's not.
Wow. Go ahead.
That's why people think, they got all these mood swings. I don't know what's going on with these mood swings. If you think somebody has a lot of mood swings, that's a good indicator. It could just be stress. but it still wouldn't hurt to take them to, first I would say take them to the doctor to rule out, there could be a UTI. Because if a woman starts acting crazy all of a sudden, it could just be a UTI, because a UTI could cause her to start acting.
Spiral out.
Yeah. You'd be
Wow.
like, why is she crashing out? She got a UTI. That's why I always say take a person to the doctor first, let an
Yes.
MD look at them.
Medical doctor, right?
Yeah, medical doctor. Let a medical doctor do the medical test
Yes.
and get some medical labs.
Yes.
And then if not, then take them to a therapist, not a coach, but a
Right.
counselor who
Yes.
is licensed,
Yes.
or psychologist who's licensed,
Yes.
or a psychiatrist. If you think that person might need medication, if there's a bipolar person, you might as well start with the psychiatrist, because they're going to need a prescription.
Yes.
You cannot pray this out.
Go ahead.
It's a chemical imbalance.
It's amazing how our body is made, and how some people, like you said, one size don't fit all.
No, ma'am.
And if it was something generational, okay, that's why it's important to know your family bloodline.
It is.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things right there. Family secrets.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And so, you said something when a woman has a UTI that, it just causes her emotionally and mentally just to check out on different levels. Wow.
Just so and then all it is a UTI. And people are like, oh, she acted bipolar, she acted schizophrenic. No, she just got a UTI. That's why you go to the doctor.
Well, I tell you. And we talked about the levels and that they're manageable. Now, and thank you for your transparency. What made you go? We know who you married to. You did.
Oh yeah.
And so, but what made you recognize, or how long did it take for you to find out that was something you was dealing with?
It took. Oh man, I was in my 40s when they found out.
Okay. Okay.
But it was odd because it was during a therapy session that I started describing behaviors that I had since I was 19.
Okay.
And so the therapist just looked, and she was like, did anybody, and then she started asking about family history. I said, oh yeah, this happened. Oh yeah, that happened. Oh yeah, this happened. And she said, and nobody put it together. I was like, well, I come from an African American community. We don't talk about these things.
Oh, no.
Not mental health.
And so it took that, and I will say it took about 2 years for them to find the right prescription.
Okay. Okay.
Because one prescription does not fit all.
Yes.
And you can't look at somebody's body weight and decide that, they don't need a lot, because they can only take the minimal dose. You really have to work with your psychiatrist to get your meds straight. And some people are like thin as a dime, and they need their meds.
Yes.
And so, especially with our teens, and there is help in the community. One of the things is not to go without your medication, because you can always go into the ER. There are pharmaceutical reps who leave samples with their doctors all the time.
Okay.
So you can get samples. There's no reason why a person who's been diagnosed with bipolar cannot go and get meds. There is help.
And what I must commend you on, you as a therapist yourself, a professional counselor, is that you go and get counseling for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
That's huge, though. That is huge, because a lot is put on you guys, by doing this, trying to help other people. So you recognize, look, I got to go somewhere and spill out too, right?
Yes, ma'am. We call it, in counseling, we call it vicarious trauma.
Okay.
You hear trauma all day. And so you have to be able to talk to somebody, because if you don't, you'll become the victim of vicarious trauma. And it is a requirement. every counselor is supposed to have a counselor. So that's a good cue for people in the community. You talk to, if you're interviewing counselors
Mm-hmm.
and you ask them, do you have a counselor? And if the answer is no, use wisdom.
Yeah.
I tell you that right there.
Wow.
It brought back a memory. 'Cause when I worked at Youth Challenge, we were unaware of certain types of kids, and this kid got upset and he started banging his head against the building until blood came out the side of his head, and we had to grab him, and so they called the mother, and the mother came down. He said, well, the mother can deal with him on this issue and all, and she started banging her head side of the car. I said, oh my God, and that means it was hereditary.
Yes,
Right, too.
yes, yes.
Yeah, she physically started banging her head against the car and physically threw the kid in the trunk. I said,
Lord.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, everything is not a generational curse. Some things are generational genetics. And,
Yes.
a lot of it is resulting from substance abuse and alcoholism. So that's why it's so important what you do in this generation may affect the next generation or the generation after that.
Yes. So, Dr. Austin, and then you work a lot. You got a lot of teens. You have a lot of young ladies that look up to you. And I personally, my husband and I thank you for being in our daughters' lives, because those two right there, they don't fool with too many people. I'm going to tell you that right now, but they absolutely adore you, and you've been very patient, kind, real with them. So thank you, because we need, and sidebar, that's, we was having a conversation with Nina, and one thing she told us, she said one of the problems with her generation is that our generation are not honest about our journey. We make it seem like, oh, I pray and I everything turns out lilies and valleys, and but you're not telling them the process of life. You understand, and your times. Hey, I don't feel like praying today. God know you tell me to pray for this person, but I don't like them. Okay, but those are the realities.
Be honest,
right? And so, thank you for your realness, because you are changing lives and generations. That's powerful.
Yes,
that's powerful.
I look at it this way: every last one of us is accountable.
Yes,
and at the last, when we have to give account for our lives on earth. Did we spend our lives faking so that people see us in one certain way? Or did we spend our lives impacting a generation so they don't have to struggle like we did?
There you go. There you go. What was you going to say, sir? God, you ready? I see you.
I get ready to say, you got leaders got to be held accountable and stop giving them passes for bad behavior, because as your example, or it's an example of the way people act. Because if you do it, you get away with it, they'll do it.
Well, these young people today, they're going to hold you accountable. Because what they're going to do, they're going to turn you off. They're not even listening. I'm telling you, I work with a bunch of them.
Well, they're going to put you on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, TikTok. They're gonna do it now, because they're going to like, look.
You going viral.
That's right. You going viral because you put it out there viral. So now they can do it.
Yeah.
So what is some encouragement, Ms. Dr. Austin, that you would give teens and families when it comes to this disorder?
Bipolar, like any other medical disorder, it does not define you. It is just information that you can use to empower yourself to be better.
Okay.
So it doesn't define your future. It doesn't limit your future. So many people think that if I have a mental health disorder, I can never get a security clearance. That's not true. So parents, don't feel like you in this alone. Teens, have to feel like you in this alone. There is help, and life. You can live full, productive lives and be successful and live with bipolar disorder and be okay.
Yes.
but you've got to do the work and
Right.
commit to it, just like any other work. A diabetic would have to commit to doing the work.
Yes.
Somebody with high blood pressure would have to commit to doing the work.
Yes.
Any mental health disorder, regardless as to what it is, do your meds, do the work. And it's not, and our community, we need to meet people with compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a lot of time, and you spend a lot of time hiding your diagnosis
Mm-hmm.
because you don't want people to see you differently
Mm-hmm.
or treat you differently.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to remember that none of us have a heaven or a hell to put somebody in.
That's right.
And if God was to be honest and tell our whole story
Woo.
and put us all on blast,
Silent night.
we would hear crickets. And so, as the kids say, let's clock it and be honest.
Yes.
And be
Yes.
upfront,
Yes.
because truth and love really, really is important. Because what does it say? It says love covers a multitude. And we've got to learn how to love. And teens, you are not, if I can't tell you anything else, you are not alone. And families, be patient with the person who has the mental health disorder, because it's not just the person who's involved. It's the family that has to be on
Yes.
board.
Mhm.
Because with my situation, my husband had to be on board.
Yes.
So even when I'm not tracking, he has to be aware
Mm-hmm.
that when I start exhibiting certain behaviors,
Mm-hmm.
he goes, hey, have you paid attention? Have you been in your app?
Mhm.
And he reminds me.
That's powerful.
And so
That's
it's a
love.
family, a mental health diagnosis in one person is a diagnosis for the family, because it requires the whole family to be on board. It requires the whole family to support the effort.
Yes.
A healing is a journey.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Amen.
Well, we're going to end. And Dr. Austin, we would still like for you to give those immediate resources for parents, please.
Okay, if your child has been in the judicial system in any way, shape, size, or form, and is exhibiting signs of struggle, that is time for, you can go directly to your superior court, to your probate judge at your local courthouse, and you can ask them to get you some help, because the child has already been in the system. And he can order an emergency order to get things expedited, and the police is going to come to your home, pick up your child, take them to the ER, and get things going. If you are a parent and you don't want to go to, and your child's not been in the system, take them directly to the ER and explain what situation is going on, because there's always a mental health professional 24/7 on staff for the ER, so that they can help your child if your child is in crisis.
Okay. There you go. Mr. Perry.
And 988.
988. Yes.
Amen.
Okay. Yes,
Amen.
ma'am. Those are some good resources. Immediate resources.
Immediate resources, because facilities are full.
Yes, ma'am.
So, but when you go to use the ones I gave you, you're able to get in immediately.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Austin. Okay, Mr. Perry.
All right. Listen. Life has taught me broken doesn't mean defeat. Be the voice that rises. This has been Young People Nation, and remember, there is always hope.
Christ is the foundation. Know His word gon' lead us. Know I'm already going. Taking steps I believe in. Giving guidance to the youth. Giving guidance to the lost. Give the world to the project. Lead them back to the cross. He the #1 prospect. He the top boss. I was broke, I was empty. He the one that paid the cost. Really thought that I was cool. There was nothing like the Savior. Now it's time for the truth. The whole world been waiting. It's Young People Nation. 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 The whole world been waiting. Whatever you going through, I know what He gonna do. Don't matter the circumstance, we going back to the root. Keep going, keep going. Let that seed keep growing. You need peace and we know it. Now it's time to live holy. Young People Nation. You know what time it is. Young People Nation. Get ready, the time is here. Get ready, we vibing here. We about to let God in here. Young People Nation. It's Young People Nation. Yeah, do it for the heavens, you know where we going. Influenced by his love, you know we gotta show it. It's time to put the youth onto what God is doing. Cause I can tell you now, right now, that God is moving. It's Young People Nation.